one of the most critical topics for every founder. It's pitching your idea. Being clear on what you need. 1 minute or elevator pitch.
Revolutionary.
Yeah, it's favorite word of OpenAI, like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
There is a few things where you can really go wrong here. I accept PayPal.
Yeah, PayPal works too. Give me your
Welcome to Startup Sluts, where we keep it real. No sugar-coated stories, just the raw deal.
Hello and welcome to our podcast, Startup Sluts, How to Fuck Up Your Startup. My name is Mary, here's my co-host Ksenia, and today we are talking about one of the most critical topics for every founder. It's pitching your idea. And we can tell you from our experience, there have been a lot of places where you can fuck up and make mistakes. Because like for me, for example, I thought in the beginning it's about how excited you are about your idea and then showing your product to everyone and convincing them. But it's not only that.
Yeah.
The most important part in my opinion, is storytelling. Being clear on what you need and speaking your audience directly. So knowing who your audience is while you pitch.
Yeah. Like adjust your pitching every time you are pitching for different audiences. Either we are talking about investor, customers, just people who are interested in your domain, for example, something like this.
Yeah. So before we go through, because our plan is to go through different pitches in this episode, like the most common ones. But before we do that, I think there are, like, for me, two main key takeaways from our experience with pitching. One is to always have clear call for action. To, like, you have to explain them what you need from them. And the second is, you have to know, as Xenia said, whom are you explaining it to?
Yeah, for sure. Or maybe these people are more professionals, like developers, IT people. They are looking for more detailed information about your product, how you have sold it. For sure, you don't need to include so deep technical information if you're talking for customers or for investors.
Yeah, and also what lately has been very common is like this overused buzzwords everywhere. Like,
I can explain why. Because nowadays everyone is using AI like ChatGPT, and ChatGPTs tend to overuse this overwording, like revolutionary.
yeah, it's favorite word of OpenAI, like ChatGPT, revolutionize, game changer.
Game changer. And these models, they use a lot of adjectives. So nowadays pitches are so full of highly emotional adjectives.
I think we can start with the first one. It's 1 minute or elevator pitch. It's like the same thing. And I think the name makes it clear. It's you have to imagine yourself in an elevator, and you have to manage to sell or make someone interested in your product in this short period of time while elevator is going up or down.
I don't like this pitching, this 1 minute pitch, because it's very difficult to eliminate in 1 minute, in one sentence, what you are creating, and it creates so much pressure, to be honest. Personally, at me, it has created a lot of pressure to create this one sentence, to tell people what you are doing, and they should be in love in your product, in your company from the first minute, and yeah, I really don't like this.
Yeah, it's not my favorite either. And so there is a few things where you can really go wrong here. As Ksenia said, it's a very short period of time, and you try to cramp as much information in this 1 minute as possible, and making it very hard to understand for people. So, like, no overloading with all the information you have. And here also you can miss the hook for people. So you don't really explain the problem and so they don't understand why this solution is needed.
I can understand, somehow the problem if you are talking, okay, in our case, I'm creating mental health solution. It's clear. Then why our solution is the best in 1 minute? It's like crazy task, I think.
Yeah, and here is also, again, knowing with whom you are riding in that elevator
Exactly.
is a very important part. But the goal of 1 minute pitch and the elevator pitch is not to tell a lot about your startup, because it's impossible, but to kind of make them really interested to ask more questions. So maybe even be a little bit more provocative in this one sentence, or
But don't use, I've changed the world, I've changed
yeah.
the world.
Yeah, so here you can also start with a problem, make it very clear and very easy to understand, then follow up with your solution. Also, no technical details there, just exactly what are you creating as a product. And of course, here, even in 1 minute, you need to finish with this call for action. So to say, here it might not be as typical as call for action, but something to let's talk about it later, or
Here is my LinkedIn. Give me yours.
yeah, something like make an immediate kind
Here
of
is
connection.
my bank account number.
Make the transfer. I accept PayPal. And
PayPal works too.
yeah. So I was thinking about maybe we can kind of come up with a 1 minute pitch for our podcast, and for me it would look something like building your startup is very tough, and most skip the crucial advices and hard truth about it. And Startup Sluts is a podcast created by founders for founders, sharing the rarely told realities of entrepreneurship. So subscribe not to miss any crucial information, and reach out if you have any stories to tell us.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's it. A lot of information about a very short.
For today. Bye.
A lot of information for a very short pitch, but the next one from our experience would be 3 minute. It's always different. It's sometimes 3 minute, it's sometimes 4 minute.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and of course I like more 4 minutes.
Yeah, the more time, the better
Yeah.
in this time category. Okay, you have more time, but there are still problems or places where you can mess this up because you have more time.
But generally, what you need to add?
In 3 minute pitch,
Yeah. Clearly, that problem for sure, product for sure, overlapping is happening with 1 minute.
yeah, of course.
But what you need to add, something new, what should it be?
Yeah, so to understand, you are here creating a broader picture, but still you need to keep everything sharp and easy to understand and focused. So you start with a problem statement and make a relevance, why this problem is relevant for you or for the market or for the listener maybe. Then solution and your product. Describe it very briefly, highlighting what makes it unique, of course, and not going into very deep details about technical stuff. In 3 or 4 minutes, you can already add market opportunity, because especially for the investors, this is the most important part.
You will earn with us millions of euros.
Yeah, but there is also very important to kind of be realistic about your
Okay, maybe not in the first year.
yeah, being realistic with your Samsung Tam. And briefly mentioning the team, because with early stage startups, mostly investors and everyone is interested
Best
in team.
team in the world.
Yeah, and you will see this pattern repeating, but you will end with call to action, because it should be very specific. Is it funding you are looking for? Is it a mentor? Is it a partner or a tester? This must be very clear and also very easy for them to connect with you. So QR codes, stuff like that,
Yeah,
always helpful.
visual presentation is also important, I would add.
Yeah, And I think these parts, like what can go wrong, are similar to all of this. But especially with 3 minutes, you have worked a lot about with your product, and you want to tell a lot about your product. It's hard to kind of miss things, but it might make it's very hard to understand for the listeners when you talk very quickly to cram everything in. So yeah, keep it simple and easy to understand. And with 5-minute pitches, it's like at the beginning I thought it would not make that huge of a difference, but it does. Like for us, it really did make a difference what we managed to add in that 1 minute after.
But I would love to add that with 5-minute pitch, you can already pitching together, because 1 minute pitch, 2 minute, 3, 4-minute pitches, no, it looks massive to people pitching. With 5-minute pitch, you might add the second person. We did very often together pitching, for example.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to, for us, it was also like showing the dynamic and explaining our story better, because we had a purpose why we started it. So I always liked doing this, like pitching together, having more kind of stage presence.
Yeah. But still, I think a lot of people are still pitching. Like in the role CEO of the startup, they're pitching.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Everyone decides by themselves. For us, it was, we liked pitching together. So when there was opportunity, we did.
Give me your hand.
But it's we can also talk what makes 5-minute pitch different from the 4 and 3-minute pitches.
What?
I might sound like I'm repeating, but of course there are things that always go in the pitching. But here you already have time to start with a story, like storytelling, to hook your listener. Maybe start with a question or about something, tell something about yourself and make them relate to you in that sense. And then you can of course go with the problem, explain the relevance of that problem in the market. So maybe some numbers come into play, like this amount of people are experiencing this problem and so on. Of course, after problem always comes the solution. And here, again, I would not recommend going very deep into technical details. People don't really understand a lot of...
I think the generally speaking storytelling, it's more about emotions, it's more about empathy maybe, or like problem solving, and not like, we will use this framework.
Yeah, because
to do this and that.
Yeah, and because as you also said, if you're pitching it to some technical, someone you want to convince to be on your team or something,
exactly.
There you go as deep as you want with the details, but not on these general competitions or investor pitches. Here it's important, you have time, you have to highlight your competitive advantage, because that's going to be asked every time, and you have to showcase what makes you different, even though you did that in solution, I think. Because explaining your solution is already explaining what are you doing uniquely, but you still need an extra few sentences on that.
We were also like some pitching event, and person was like, who is sleeping in bed during the last 3 weeks? Raise your hands. And like a lot of people raising their hands, and this person like, you will die in 10 years. That is why I use our product today. Like, it's very
yeah, it's like a very questionable way, but see, it stayed in your memory.
Exactly.
It's always also questionable when it comes to the health startups, like how far you can go with this, like asking a question or like making someone afraid of like dying.
Exactly. Or showing very photos with illnesses, which are very visual. Maybe you need also like to highlight that at this moment we'll show you the image, which
make the like, trigger warning or something. But yeah, going back to the 5 minutes, here you already have place and time to show the traction. Traction is always asked by the investors. It might not be relevant for a lot of others, but still for users also, because in traction you can use user feedback, which will show them like so people are using your product.
Yeah, because it's always functions this way. If million of people are using your product, it's like convincing other million
Yeah.
to use it.
Yeah, and maybe if you have some partnerships, you can highlight it here also as like a stamp of quality.
Yeah,
Sometimes you know
yes.
that these partners believed in us, and so we are working together. But yeah, here comes the traction, and of course the business model. Again, this is more important for like investor and business partners and than for users and testers, but you
For
need
users,
to
it might be also very interesting to be, because either they should pay for the service or maybe the company will
Yeah.
pay for the service.
Yeah, you are right. You're right there. But for investors, it's more like a plan to make money.
Yeah, for sure.
So they will always they will never invest. I think in a business where there is no clear business plan. So here you can kind of sell it good. You have more time to talk about team. I don't think that it's necessary, to be honest, to really do a long.
No, for sure. You should highlight like the most important points. Maybe if someone has experience working in Google or something like that, it's cool to mention, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And guess what? You are ending your pitch with call to action.
And I think at the very beginning we did this mistake, to be honest. We were not always clear what we want from people. Like, maybe you might understand by yourself that you need some money.
Yeah, and even in like even when we said like we are looking for investment,
Yeah.
like we were not really clear how much we need,
Exactly.
what we need. Like people need like this information directly.
Yeah.
And not to think a lot about adding themselves. So yeah, it's call for action. Call to action is a place where you have to work a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah, to stay memorable. But again, yeah, not going into people tend to go into much detail here because they have more time. I would suggest to avoid that, and being like vague about market, for example, saying, oh, there is a billions of opportunity in this market. It does not say anything to investor, and also not really explaining what your target market is.
Yeah.
So you should be more clear about that. And I think one of the rarest one we had.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't remember that many long pitches if you don't include the just calls with investors. That's a different thing.
Yes.
But there is also the 10-minute pitch. And of course, the 10-minute pitch should provide your listener with like a full picture of what you are doing, your traction, vision, solution. But it can also have this structure, what we discussed in the 5 minute, for example. Here, maybe it makes even more sense to invest time in like intro, personal story. So like again, people can relate to you. And then go like really deep dive into the problem and the market opportunity with insights. You can use here more time to talk about the numbers. And go really detailed into solution, but I don't mean detailed in the technical sense. Really explain easily but detailed what your solution is. You're gonna do here also competitive analysis, maybe highlighting even more broader competitors,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
not only other startups or something.
Yes. And like I think like very great visualization should be here, charts, lines different, and so on, because it's hard to numbers are difficult to understand if you're just listening. You need like to highlight them or something like this.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, here also goes the business model and revenue streams. You might have a different business models. For example, you might consider both B2B, B2C. Here you can kind of explain advantages and disadvantages for your case for both, or why are you choosing one or the other. And traction, again, whenever you have time, you should include traction and the proof points. So like the key metrics, partnerships, customer testimonials are always something everyone is looking for to see. And maybe you can add here more about the financial projection, like what you need, because 10-minute pitch, it's probably for the investor.
Yes, I think so.
It's rarely on some pitching competition. So here you can really go into this, like your financial planning for next few years, and projections and overall budget breakdown. You will include after that, of course, the team and the
call for action.
You can now see that with every pitch there are few things that are always important to have, even if it's a 1 minute or the 10-minute. So it's a problem, solution, and clear call to action.
Exactly.
And clearly understanding who you are calling to action to. So we can say, for example, if your call to action is to investors, you can say we are seeking XY amount of money in seed funding to launch our product. And if you are interested, reach out to us, and you might have their link or something, email address, and we can set up the follow-up meeting. So you already also give them this like next step action. What's it gonna be? With mentors, it of course depends on what type of mentor advisor you are looking for, but you can always say like we're looking for advisors to guide us in the product development, and the same, like if you're interested, reach out to us by LinkedIn or
And for sure you need to include QR codes in your presentation, and because the last page is the longest page people will see. So the last page should really be very cool and consist very useful information about you, like LinkedIn, QR codes, maybe to your LinkedIn, to your product, to your email, and so on and so on.
Yeah, and what would be also great in, for example, because I missed that in 10-minute pitch, with the product, you can add the demo.
Oh, yeah.
You can either have like maybe video or picture demos, and to then repeat that on the last slide, because it will kind of stay in memory what the product was.
Yes. Or first video and then just a picture at the end, also cool.
Yeah, I think so too. And of course, with the users, if you are looking for testers, you just like, if you are interested, excited about our product, if you want to become the part of our mission, just register, sign up for our beta testing. Your feedback is very important for us. And so that's how it was very generic examples of call for action, but that's how different it can be for different audiences. Yeah, I think this was all like, of course, it's very important to have these informative and like structural tips, what to pitch, to whom to pitch it, but physical part plays a very huge part.
Like playing very important. I think we have looked a video.
Yeah, we had a research on like, this like
how hands, like what you need to do with your hands, what you want to show with them. It plays really an important role, and it helps you actually to deliver the information better, because you like with all these movements.
Yeah. So the right gestures, purpose movements, not to be fidgety, like not to move the back and forth, but like each movement should have a purpose. And of course, body language always in every conversation plays a role. So you don't have to be like closed and standing with like closed legs and closed hands. But also, for example, you're pitching to the audience and try to keep the eye contact with them. Like maybe if it's too hard for you, maybe you can choose a one person, but like not looking in some direction of ceiling or somewhere there where there is no one.
Yeah, or somewhere far away, because then people don't understand whom you're like. Do you look in their eyes? It's not clear, but it looks like you're looking in the eyes of each person actually.
Yeah, and I think depending on the situation and topic, you can always try to engage them in the conversation. You can ask the question at the beginning, you can ask the question in the middle or at the end. I think some audiences like to be part of the conversation.
And I would like also to tell that it's really nice if you have some catchy clothes, to be honest, because then you will stay also more memorable. Maybe a very, like in our case, it was like also very colorful sweaters, for example, or shoes which look very bright or unusual.
Yeah, even maybe
Lipstick.
yeah, that's a very big thing, I think. For example, even choosing the colors of your brand might be a great way so they can connect you with the brand and it stays in the memory too if it's like something flashy.
We also did, for example, our Max by t-shirts, and we pitched in our t-shirts with Max by logo and name. And you can QR code make also on your t-shirt or sweatshirt, for example.
Yeah, in the back.
In the back, yeah.
An easy way also to kind of easy and sneaky way to stay memorable for your listeners.
It's the most important tips we would like to share.
We would love to hear your thoughts. If you would like to have an episode about the pitch deck, we would be happy to, because
oh, it's very funny. We have like I don't know, about
hundreds.
Yeah, really a lot. We have folder with all our pitch decks, and it's like really a lot.
Yeah, but we have a great tips for that too. But in any ways, I think it's that's it for today's episode with our pitching tips. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, hit this thumbs up button, follow us on Spotify and
on YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube too. And share with us your thoughts about the topics you might be interested in.
See you.
Yeah, and see you in the next episode.